Hello there. This was supposed to be a channel about centrist perspective on politics of different European countries and even on the American scene from a European centrist point of view. However, the situation of today in Ukraine and the human tragedy that the horrible totalitarian regime of Putin has done has fabricated themselves and have perpetrated these horrible crimes against humanity and against peace towards the Ukrainian people require of me to first start a series of videos about Russian justifications, Russian narrative, Russian numbers, all of it being basically either full lie or some oversimplifications that just favor the Russians, or basically saying the truth but not the whole truth and making things twisted to a way that it wouldn't make any sense. So let's start with with a little article made by a Ukrainian person. So yes, there could be a little bias, but he actually made a really good analogy, and I actually even looked into it a bit deeper, not too far. Uh, Basically, it's about the fact that Putin has tried to justify himself for his actions in Donbass, in Crimea, and in 2022, and in Ukraine in general, for protection of the Russian-speaking minorities. The problem with this is that even people, it's kind of similar to Hitler, what he did with German minorities with Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia in 1938, which later on ensued with full-on annexation of Czechoslovakia and creation of fascist Slovak state. That's a different history. But this German minority was apparently, by Hitler's words at that time, very much oppressed by Czechoslovaks. And Putin does the same thing. He says that Ukraine is the main reason for his invasion in 2014 and now 2022. I'm a Russian speaking. That means a person who wrote it, Paul Gavrilyuk, is himself a Russian speaking Ukrainian person. I know from personal experience that Putin claim is a lie. Ukraine is a bilingual country where Russian is nearly as common as Ukrainian. Russian speakers in Ukraine have broad civil rights, broad civilized rights when their counterparts in Putin's Russia. That's a little bit cheeky, of course, but I think that today it's not that far from the truth. Of course, we know that Hitler was claiming similar problems for the ethnic Germans in Czechoslovakia, and he, of course, he did the terrible things that he did. Namely the Holocaust and the Second World War, which really shows the irony of Hitler complaining about persecution of any ethnic group. And we can see the same thing done by Russia today with Bucha, Irpin, and all of the oblasts that have been attacked: Chernihiv Oblast, Sumy Oblast, Kharkiv Oblast. And yes, even Donbass, where people are apparently very much scared of the Russian soldiers. So this article is very well done on this. Hitler even apparently questioned the Czechoslovak state. I haven't found any source on that, but the so-called nation of the Czechs, blaming the Treaty of Versailles for bringing abnormal state of Czechoslovakia. Putin did something fairly similar on February 21st. This is a actual Kremlin website. The situation in Donbass has reached. Yes, again, he's talking about these things, these things happening, such as persecution of the ethnic Russians or Russian-speaking minority of Ukraine, and then he proceeds on claiming that Ukraine has never existed as an independent state, and its statehood is basically just an invasion of modern time and definitely done by Russians, and that these people are basically Russians, just speaking a bit funny, which is not true, of course. And there's a really good video on that done by Mr. Laser History, a person who has studied in Oxford, He knows much more about it than me, and it's a complete debunk of the 21st February speech. So I'm going to give a link in the description. It's a really good video if you had the time to watch. I think it was quite long, but very good, very very good video. Uh, Even well organized when it comes to animations and everything. So really recommend that. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about a bit more about Hitler and about similarities of the speeches done by Hitler and done by Putin. So Adolf Hitler, 1938, 26th September in Berlin in particular, said things like, "My patience is now at an end." Speech demanding certain line from Czechoslovakia, 1938. So the first paragraph is very much easily comparable to the ones with Putin in the February 24th, and we're going to see that later on. Now we're going to read this. I have really in these years pursued a practical peace policy. I have approached all apparently impossible problems with a firm resolve to solve them peacefully, even when there was the danger of making more or less serious renunciations on Germany's part. Bullshit. I myself am a frontline soldier, and I know how grave a thing war is. I wanted to spare the German people such an evil, but problem after problem I have tackled with the set purpose to make every effort to render possible peaceful solution. Basically, as any dictator would, he is painting himself as the good guy who is always trying to be peaceful, who's been always trying to make peaceful resolutions of the possible conflict of interests, and now he's talking about Czechoslovakia. So it's even in 1938 he was talking about Czechoslovakia. Now, when we look at Russia's president, um, he of course starts already. I will begin with with what I said in my address in February 21st. So I spoke about our biggest concerns and worries, and about the fundamental threats which irresponsible Western politicians created for Russia consistently. Rudely and unceremoniously, from year to year, I'm referring to the eastward expansion of NATO, which is moving to its military infrastructure even closer to Russia. It is a fact that over the past 30 years, we have been patiently trying to come to an agreement with the leading NATO countries regarding the principles of equal and indivisible security in Europe. In response to our proposals, we invariably faced either cynical deception and lies or attempts at pressure and blackmail, while the North Atlantic Alliance continued to expand despite our protests and concerns. Its military machine is moving and, as I said, is approaching our very border. So, you know what? He's different from Hitler. He's more aggressive than Hitler in 1938. He's more aggressive in that speech. He's basically saying, "I'm not just the good guy. These guys are the bad guys. They're not being irresponsible in a way that they are clumsy. They are purposefully trying to endanger Russia." That's what they're trying to. That's what he's trying to say here, and that's kind of scary if you think about it, because he views the West and NATO already as an active enemy. Maybe not militarily yet, but ideologically and politically. That is a scary, scary topic. Here, Adolf was very much, he's still bad, I'm not trying to defend him. He's still worse than what Putin did for now. But in this speech, he was more of a puppy when Putin was, which is a fucked up thing to say, and I'm not actually surprised that I'm saying it in the end. We can even see in Hitler's speeches after we can talk about it later on. No, let's not go on a tangent. So there's another part of this, and that is this one. Hitler was in 1938. He was saying, and I have further assured him, meaning Chamberlain, that at the moment, I think it was Benesch, Chamberlain and Benesch. No, it was Chamberlain. And I further assured him that at the moment when Czechoslovakia solves her problems, that means when the Czechs have come to terms with their other minorities, and that peaceably and not through oppression, then I have no further interest in the Czech state. And that is guaranteed to him. You know what happened? We know it was bullshit. We can see something similar when we go for this. We look at Nazis. In his speech, these are Kremlin sites. This is just a text of what he was saying in February 24th. In this context, so the purpose of this operation is to protect people who for 8 years have been facing humiliation and genocide perpetrated by the Kiev regime. We can see a similarity between here. Um, Wait, where did it go? Where did Kiev regime? Come on. Come on. Internet. Oh no, this is another speech. My bad. So we can actually highlight this normally. Hello? No? Okay, we can't. Never mind. Um, to this end, we will seek to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, as well as bring to trial those who perpetrate numerous bloody crimes against civilians, including against citizens of the Russian Federation. So basically, we can see already similarities in this. We will now check that's a secondary thing, but he is basically saying a similar thing that Hitler says here afterwards. But in the same way, I desire to state before the German people that with regard to the problem of the Sudeten Germans, my patience is now at an end. I've been facing humiliation and genocide perpetrated by the Kiev regime for 8 years now. Very similar phrase. I have made Mr. Benes an offer which is nothing but the carrying into effect of what he himself has promised. So the decision now lies in his hands, peace or war. This would be more. This part would actually be more comparable. This sentence would actually be more comparable to the one made in February 21st. I'm not gonna lie. So it's not the same. It's not the same. Like anybody who would tell you that it's the same speeches, it's not. But there are similar justifications, similar casus belli, and definitely similar psychological game that is being done. He's trying to convince everybody. Not this address is no longer for the citizens of Russia. What Putin was probably trying to do was trying to get both the Western right-wing politics and the Western left-wing leaning people to side with him, at least to a certain degree, to hope that they would think of Ukrainian army as Nazis and that they are the ones running the country in reality. I'm pretty sure that he's still aiming for it, and he is going to be going more into it because on the left wing it didn't work. But for the far right conspiracy theorists, they're going to be tackled by Russian propaganda. I'm talking people like Christian nationalists, white nationalists, and other crazy people. I would like to say because. That's actually one of the yeah, okay, I have a VPN on it doesn't like that. The funny thing is about the so-called denazification of Ukraine is the fact that the people who are defending Putin the most in this are far right and far left politicians. Far left politicians have always the same rhetoric on everything, but they in the end they support Russia very much so. But far right politicians are basically saying that Russia is right to start a war and that they're fighting Nazis while themselves are pursuing fascist policies. Not Nazi politics, but not Nazi policies, but fascist policies. Russia itself is pursuing fascist policies such as autarky, ultranationalism, totalitarianism, etc., etc. We're going to make a whole video on that. So let's not start a whole debate on it. So we can also look at real quick to the fact that Hitler did similar justifications on when he attacked Poland. It is impossible to demand that an impossible position should be cleared by peaceful revision, and at the same time constantly reject peaceful revision. Similar as Putin is saying that Ukraine has been breaching a lot the Minsk agreements, which is false. It is also impossible to say that he who undertakes to carry out these revisions for himself transgresses a law, since the Versailles Diktat is not law to us. Yeah, this is about Versailles. It's a topic to itself for Hitler, not really to Putin, even though you could be comparing this with NATO expansion and the fact that Russia felt cheated. Well, he himself felt like Russia was cheated. Signature was forced out of us with pistols at our head and with the threat of hunger for millions of people. Kind of similar as what he's saying about, again, what Putin is saying about eastward expansions of NATO. These things are he's basically trying to say that either we did that, either we let people do what they want, or we would face consequences of the mighty West, and he's of course against that, and he wants to protect his people. Now, it doesn't matter who said that. Both Hitler and Putin would say the same thing in that moment. And then this document with our signature obtained by force was proclaimed as solemn law. Again, very similar to NATO eastward expansion. He also advocates similar psychology, justification, and peaceful discussions, etc., as Putin said about NATO expansion, etc. We can clearly see similarities in psychology and similarities in justifications and political means being employed in the same way as Nazi Germany was. Putin is doing similar methods. I think that it's not hard to see the irony that when he's saying that he's going to denazify Ukraine while he's using similar methods as Adolf Hitler did before the Second World War and at the start of Second World War, it's really fucked up and it plays with your brain. Anybody who would still believe Russian pro-Russian YouTubers or pro-Russian media, etc., should at least rethink what they're listening to and what is true and what is not. If you really believe in any of that bullshit being created by Kremlin. Sorry for my language. Sometimes I just have to get it out. I also found a different full transcript by Bloomberg. I'm going to put both of these. This is for Putin. This is yeah. I'm going to put both of these up as a sources. Then we can also talk about. We're going to talk just real quick about it because since we're talking about similarities between between the invasion of Ukraine of 2022 and Czechoslovakia in 1938. We can also talk about the Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968. Yes, magic eights, magic numbers, I guess. Yeah, after 30 years, exactly, almost exactly 30 years afterwards, the Soviets attacked Czechoslovakia as while they were allies. There's not much to be said about justifications in that case. But what happened was basically that the Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia was due to the Communist Party basically liberalizing the country. Freedom of expression was allowed again. Secret police was disbanded. No more spying on your citizens. If they're criticizing the government, they're not going to go to jail or their life won't be ruined. They had freedom of movement, therefore they could actually go to the Western countries. Yes, crazy, right? And they could even bring Western products, not to a large extent, very little from that. There were books that used to be forbidden that were published, cultural events that used to be forbidden were again, etc. And even history of Soviet genocides, etc., was being taught in schools afterwards, later, maybe even a little bit. I think I didn't find a source for that, but I've been told by people who lived through that people were talking about things that used to be forbidden. Anything, even the Czechoslovak legionaries taking over the Trans-Siberian Railway during the Russian Civil War, which of course the Bolsheviks were very angry about, and of course Soviets didn't want that to be taught as a heroic thing. Yeah. So we have this. This happened basically because of democratic reform. Why am I talking about it when we're talking about Ukraine? We're talking about Ukraine about this as in Ukraine because Ukraine is trying the best to do its best to be a democratic country, an open country. Why doesn't Russia like it? Because Russia views Ukraine as its player. But as its front yard, essentially, kind of similar as it used to view Czechoslovakia in 1968. And basically, since the fact that Ukrainians are able to speak very well Russian, and they actually even do Russian-speaking TV channels, Russian-speaking YouTube channels, social media, whatever, they can talk about things openly, even about Russia. Putin doesn't like that, and it would be very costly for him to do some censorship about it. He's trying that right now, and it's very difficult. Therefore, invading Ukraine and actually changing the government as he wanted to initially would have been very helpful because they would have done the censorship for him. The same thing was done during the normalization after the invasion ended. We have some numbers here. What happened? If you are interested, basically there was no fight from the Czechoslovak side. Only some people who were sabotaging. Some people were going on their own, and there were some protesters who got killed. Actually, quite a lot. These are confirmed people who were killed, and there were around 300 people who apparently disappeared, and we haven't found out what happened to them. And around 300,000 people emigrated. That's a big exodus for a 15 million country. So yeah, justifications were very much not the same ones as they are today, but if you think about it a little bit, it's very much a similar reason why they invaded, partly because they don't want on their front yard a democratic country that would hinder Russian authoritarianism to an extent which would give Russians themselves idea. We could see what happened to Navalny and others who have tried to do so in Russia. So having someone from outside doing something similar would be very bad for Putin. And let's say that theoretically, Ukraine prospers after the war, after its democratic reforms, etc. It prospers, it grows, it becomes a fairly powerful country. Uh, I am pretty sure that a lot of Russians, a lot of young Russians at the very least, who maybe have relatives or friends from Ukraine, would start to maybe want change in their own country, would maybe want similar reforms done in their country, similar revolutions, etc., etc. Putin is terrified of that, of course. And of course, I wanted to do this, just show a little article that was a Russian documentary on the helpful 1968 invasion. That of course angered the Czech people. It was in 2015 this happened, and apparently this documentary done by a Russian state television was called Warsaw Pact: Declassified Pages. This was done by Russia One television, yes, state-run television, prompting Czech foreign minister to to summon Russia's ambassador later on. But what this documentary was saying that the 1968 Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia was as necessary to protect Soviet allies from NATO aggression. Sounds similar to you? It sounds to me as well. Um, so yeah, this it makes me laugh, but not in a mocking or cheerful way. It makes me laugh in a sad, ironic way, if you wish. You have a person who says he's done denazifying a country while using a literally personification of Nazism, a person who would say similar things as Casus Belli. You have him denying Ukrainian statehood, very similar to what Hitler used to do as well. And then, of course, we have the Soviet playbook that the Russians are never afraid to use. Uh, and of course, someone like Putin, who was indoctrinated by Russian propaganda, Russian Soviet propaganda from his young age, and even worked in KGB, and probably even tortured and killed people for the KGB. You know, it's normal that someone like that would think with a Soviet playbook at his hand. So, of course, this is something sad and ironic to be seen. In the end, all I want to say is that I hope this human tragedy will end soon, and that the people of Ukraine will be able to come back to their homes, to be able to reconstruct, and that civilian casualties will be as little as possible. It saddens me to see a brotherly Slavic nation, although much further on the east from the east when my nation is from. I'm very saddened and I feel connected to that invasion, even though I've never lived through something similar. I hope that they will prevail, and I hope that they will win. And I hope I managed to show you a different perspective to the whole idea behind Putin's imperialist agenda. Um, and of course, be skeptical. There's no problem with that. Just don't blindly accept Russian bullshit. Don't blindly accept Russian propaganda. That would uh, basically hurt Ukraine more than you would think. The information war is being won right now for Ukraine, and we, as the citizens of the free world, can help with that. And that's why I also made this video. So I hope Ukraine will win, and hope it will persevere. Um, and I hope you liked the video. So I'll see you next time, and Slava Ukrajinii!